Once upon a time, these 12 restaurants were booming, serving delicious meals and unforgettable memories. But today, they're gone. In this video, we'll take a nostalgic trip through these once famous restaurants that no longer exist, exploring their rise, fall, and what led to their downfall. Whether you remember Howard Johnson's, Burger Chef, Steak and Ale, or Sambos, this list is packed with iconic eateries you might have forgotten, but will definitely miss. Number 1. If you grew up in the 1970s, I'm sure Arthur Treacher was part of your childhood memories, as it was many people's favorite. Arthur Treacher is one restaurant that is hard to forget. You will easily recognize any Arthur Treacher's restaurant with its magnificent yellow and green lanterns outside, which people always look at while they drive by. It started in 1969 by a man named Arthur Treacher. He was an entertainer known for being the announcer on the very popular talk show, The Merv Griffin Show, and his role in the movie Mary Poppins. They had 826 stores around the country. This restaurant was famous for its very delicious fish and chips, especially on Fridays during Lent, when the fish and chips were a big hit, and you'll see people sneaking around the building waiting for their food. Arthur Treacher Fish and Chips no longer exists today, but the memory we had of it remains in our hearts. You can't talk about popular restaurants that people loved back in the day without talking about this next one, though. Who remembers the bright orange-roofed and blue spire restaurants that you would always see on road trips back in the day? Yes, that's a Howard Johnson's restaurant. It was created by Howard Johnson in 1925 when he opened an ice cream shop not far from Boston in Quincy, Massachusetts. His restaurants were spread all over the place, and they offered tired travelers a cozy place to rest. In the 1950s, family outings and vacations often included a stop at the restaurant for a meal. Their menu contained juicy burgers, crispy fried chicken, creamy milkshakes, and ice creams. Howard Johnson's restaurants were so successful that by 1965, the chain's sales surpassed McDonald's, Burger King, and Kentucky Fried Chicken. By the late 1970s, Howard Johnson's restaurants numbered over 1,000. He also ensured he created a colorful and happy place that catered to kids, right down to crayons and coloring pages to keep little ones entertained. Also, a specially designed kids menu with perfectly portioned meals was provided. One of the kids' favorites on the menu was the Hojo hot dogs called Frankfurt, which are split down the middle, dipped in butter, and nestled in a toasted white bread bun. The best thing about the restaurants for many kids was that unlike most restaurants and ice cream shops, which typically offered only the classic trio of chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, Howard Johnson's boasted an incredible 28 distinct flavors of ice cream, a unique offering that no one else could match. Howard Johnson's, like many other big restaurants, declined despite their huge success rate. Its decline happened not long after it reached its peak in the 1970s. Several factors contributed to its fall, from shifts in travel preferences to increased competition from restaurants and hotels. Americans also lost interest in cross-country road trips because air travel became affordable. By the late 1970s, Johnson's restaurants seemed old-fashioned and out of touch with changing tastes. Today, all Howard Johnson's restaurants have closed except for one location in Lake George, New York, which operates with limited hours. Despite its decline, this restaurant left countless happy memories across America. The same thing applies to this next restaurant. Burger Chef was once one of the popular fast food chains in the United States, with only McDonald's boasting more locations at the time. Burger Chef was a pioneering American fast food chain founded in Indianapolis in 1954 and rapidly expanded across the United States. At its peak in 1973, it had over 1,000 locations, including some in Canada. The chain was renowned for its retro-style logo featuring a light globe and its innovative works bar, where you could customize your burger just the way you like it. They also came up with the idea of a kids' meal, combining a burger with a dessert and a toy in 1978, leaving a lasting impact on the fast food industry and the hearts of many who fondly remember the brand. Eventually, the chain lost steam in the 80s, with the last spot closing in 1996. And this leaves us with nostalgic memories of a past when life was simpler and we enjoyed the little things. Number 4. Red Barn. This fast food chain emerged in Ohio in the 1960s and was known for its signature menu items, including the Big Barney, a hamburger that is similar to a Big Mac, and Barnbuster burgers, as well as a self-serve salad bar. It also offered fried chicken, fish sandwiches, and a pioneering salad bar. Most of the food was served on the buffet. With their distinctive barn-shaped buildings, Red Barn restaurants were easily recognizable. The restaurants were in the shape of barns. They had a glass front and limited seating. The Red Barn quickly became a favorite among burger lovers because America embraced fast food culture in the 1960s. At its peak, Red Barn attained a significant size, with approximately 400 locations across 22 states. Although it never quite rivaled the scale of fast food giants like McDonald's or Burger King. However, the chain's success was short-lived, as ownership changed hands multiple times in the late 1970s, which led to the subsequent closing of all its locations by the late 1980s. The Brown Derby was the place to be seen. This legendary restaurant was famous for its Grauman's Chinese chicken salad and its iconic hat-shaped building. It was a small cafe that was opened in 1926 by Wilson Misner. It was initially located at 3427 Wilshire Boulevard, across the street from the Ambassador Hotel. This restaurant has a unique architectural design of a golden brown building shaped like a derby. It was a very distinctive design that was meant to catch the attention of motorists passing by. The restaurant served classic American dishes with a touch of old Hollywood style. Its menu had many cultural dishes like juicy steaks and tender seafood. They were also famous for their Cobb salad, which was filled with ingredients. Because many of the film studios were situated nearby, the Hollywood Brown Derby became a dining lounge for movie stars and directors. We also heard that some movie fans even sent mail to the stars there, and it's addressed this way to the Brown Derby, Hollywood and Vine. In 1985, like most of the other restaurants, the Hollywood Brown Derby was closed for earthquake retrofitting. 2 years later, a devastating fire occurred in 1987, destroying almost everything. The restaurant never reopened. This next restaurant was a go-to destination for steak lovers back in the day. Launched in 1966, Steak and Ale was famous for its cheap but tasty steak with an unlimited salad bar. With its affordable prices and decent food quality, Steak and Ale was a go-to destination for steak lovers across the United States. It was also known for its wide selection of sides, including loaded baked potatoes, fresh salads, and seasonal vegetables. The restaurant chain became one of America's most loved as dishes like Hawaiian chicken and herb-roasted prime rib were made available. It was an ideal spot for family gatherings and dinners throughout the 1970s and 80s. They expanded their coast by opening numerous branches nationwide. There were more than 100 locations when it became part of the biggest restaurant chain in 1976. Like most of the other restaurants, it faced some challenges caused by changes in consumer preferences and increased competition in the restaurant industry. Ownership changed hands multiple times throughout the 80s, and the company eventually went bankrupt. Another one kids in the 80s will remember is Showbiz Pizza Place. Have you ever celebrated your birthday or received an invite to a birthday party at the Showbiz Pizza? There was nothing more exciting than partying there as a kid. Showbiz was a restaurant chain that opened in the early 1980s. It offered pizza and provided a large selection of arcade games. It had a large room with all the best games any kid would love. From Pac-Man to Galaga to Q*bert, Dig Dug, Centipede, and Tron, Showbiz had them all. However, the restaurant's main attraction was in the dining area. You'd see them whenever the stage curtains opened, the Rock-a-Fire Explosion. The animatronic characters performed popular songs that everyone knew, classic rock, pop, and country music. When it was time for the cake on birthdays, Billy Bob would sing a happy birthday song. It was such a thrilling experience. Our favorite go-to restaurant ended when Showbiz purchased Pizza Time Theater, a company with a robotic stage show whose star was Chuck E. Cheese. Most of the animatronic characters we loved were replaced, and the whole chain of Showbiz pizza places were eventually rebranded as Chuck E. Cheese. Our showbiz pizza is gone, but we'll forever cherish the memories we had when it lived. Our next restaurant shares a similar story. Number 8. Sambos. The casual diner opened during the peak of roadside dining in 1957 in Santa Barbara, California. It gained massive popularity for its breakfast menu, which featured pancakes, waffles, and omelets. Sambos expanded rapidly across the country, and by the 1970s, it had over 1,100 locations. Sambos reached its peak in the late 1970s and early 1980s. The chain was known for its friendly service, generous portions, and affordable prices. Sambos was particularly popular among families and travelers who appreciated its convenient locations near highways and its kid-friendly menu. However, Sambos began to decline in the late 1980s and early 1990s due to several factors. As consumer taste shifted towards healthier and more diverse dining options, Sambos' traditional breakfast menu began to seem outdated. Sambos also faced criticism and controversy over its name and logo, which some argued were racially insensitive. Sambos struggled financially, and the chain filed for bankruptcy in 1982. By the early 2000s, Sambos had closed most of its locations, and the chain was largely forgotten. However, some nostalgic fans still remember Sambo fondly, and a few locations continue to operate under different ownership. This next one quickly gained popularity for its signature square-shaped hamburgers, crispy fries, and milkshakes. In 1954, the Bressler's Ice Cream Company decided to expand into the growing fast food drive-in industry. Company executives were looking for a new outlet to promote higher sales of their malts and shakes without altering their existing ice cream shop franchises. Under the name Henry's Hamburgers, many franchises were eventually established. The name Henry was chosen to honor the memory of the late Henry Bressler, one of the brothers who had founded the ice cream company. This restaurant was modeled after James Collins' hamburger handout restaurants in Southern California. By 1956, Henry's Hamburgers had 35 locations in the Chicago area. At the time, that outnumbered some of the industry's current giants, such as McDonald's. By the early 1960s, there were over 200 Henry's restaurants across America, with operations headquarters in Chicago. By the mid-1970s, Henry's hamburger locations had begun closing, and repeated mergers and ownership changes had taken place within the Bressler Company. The only remaining location is in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Our next bygone restaurant was also a standout back in the day. Gino's Hamburgers was founded in 1957 by Gino Marchetti, a former Baltimore Colts football player, and his business partner, Alan Amiche. This fast food restaurant chain operated in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States, primarily in Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Gino's quickly gained popularity for its signature items, such as the Gino Giant burger, made with freshly ground beef, fries, and milkshakes. The chain expanded rapidly, and by the 1960s and 1970s, Gino's had over 400 locations. Gino's reached its peak in the 1970s and early 1980s. The chain was known for its friendly service, generous portions, and affordable prices. Gino's was particularly popular among families, travelers, and sports fans, who appreciated its convenient locations near highways and sports stadiums. Just like other popular restaurants back in the day, Gino's traditional fast food menu began to seem outdated as consumer tastes shifted towards healthier and more diverse dining options. By the mid-1990s, Gino's had closed most of its locations, and the chain was largely forgotten. If you lived in Oakland in the 1950s and 1960s, you should remember the Doggy Diner. This restaurant was opened by Al Ross. The original restaurant was a tremendous success, and Ross opened other doggy diners throughout the East Bay and San Francisco. The restaurant chain grew until Ross owned 30 diners, including downtown Oakland, each with the iconic giant, rotating dachshund heads designed by Harold Bachman. The first doggy diner was opened on Oakland's San Pablo Avenue in 1948 and grew in popularity. At one time, there were 30 locations around the San Francisco Bay Area, mostly concentrated in San Francisco. The chain was sold to Ogden Corporation around 1969. They sold French fries, hamburgers, hot dogs, and sodas. The doggy diner chain went out of business in 1986 after trying to compete with big chain restaurants such as McDonald's and Burger King. Its founder, Al Ross, died in 2010 at age 93. The brand name has been revived for hot dog sales at Oracle Park, the home stadium of the San Francisco Giants. Finally, in today's video, we have Carol's. Carol's was founded in 1960 by Herb Lotz and Alan Coffin in Syracuse, New York. The chain quickly expanded across the Northeast and Midwest, with 150 stores at its peak in the 1960s. Carol's was known for its signature club burger, which was similar to the Big Mac at McDonald's. They were also famous for their char-grilled burgers, as well as their speedy service and affordable prices. They also sold popular Looney Tunes drinking glasses. The majority of Carol's restaurant locations were converted to Burger King franchises in 1975, with less profitable stores shuttered. After the conversion, the Carol's brand was only found overseas in Finland, Sweden, Estonia, Latvia, and Russia, except for 2 stores. One on Roosevelt Avenue in Carteret, New Jersey, which closed in the 1970s, and a single franchisee-owned store in Batavia, New York. Both of these latter 2 stores operated under the Carol's name until the 1980s before closing. By the late 1980s, Carol's had largely disappeared from the fast food landscape, with many locations closing or being converted to other brands. Today, Carol's name is still remembered fondly by many who grew up eating at the chain, but it remains a nostalgic relic of a bygone era in fast food. If you can bring back one restaurant from back in the day, tell me which one it will be. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button to enjoy more videos. See you next time.